The Galactic Council chambers echoed with desperate voices as Admiral Rex stood before the holographic display. The red dots representing enemy fleets covered half the known galaxy like a spreading plague. The Void Hunters had been unstoppable for 3 years now. Our defensive lines at the outer rim have fallen, reported General Maya, her blue scales dulled with exhaustion. The reptilian commander had lost 2 home worlds already. They consumed everything. No survivors, no prisoners. Just empty space where civilizations once thrived. Captain Tom from the avian species nodded grimly. His people were fast. Their ships could outrun almost anything, but even they couldn't escape the Void Hunters forever. Our scouts report massive hive ships moving toward the core systems. At their current speed, they'll reach the capital worlds. In 6 months, the hologram showed the enemy's path of destruction. Entire star systems had gone dark. Billions of lives snuffed out like candles in a storm. The Void Hunters didn't just conquer. They consumed. They stripped planets bare, turned living worlds into dead rocks, and used the harvested biomass to fuel their endless war machine. What about the defensive platforms around Prime Station? Asked Dr. Lisa, the chief scientist. Her tentacles moved nervously as she studied the tactical data. The energy shields should hold them back. Admiral Rex shook his head. They've adapted to our weapons. Their bioships eat energy. Our most powerful cannons only make them stronger. He paused, watching the faces around the table. Fear lived in every eye. We estimate they'll break through our final defenses in 4 months. The silence stretched like a funeral shroud. Every race in the galaxy had contributed to this war. The crystal beings had given their hardest minerals for armor. The energy creatures had powered the weapons. The hive minds had coordinated the defense fleets. None of it mattered. The Void Hunters were simply too strong, too hungry, too numerous. There must be something, whispered Commander Jack, representing the aquatic species. His gills fluttered with stress. Some weapon we haven't tried? Some strategy we've missed? We've tried everything, Admiral Rex replied. Nuclear weapons, plasma cannons, gravitational bombs, quantum disruptors. We even attempted to reason with them. They don't communicate. They don't negotiate. They only consume. The war had started at the galaxy's edge, in the empty quarter where few species lived. The first reports seemed impossible. Entire colonies vanishing overnight, distress signals cut short, rescue fleets finding nothing but stripped worlds. By the time the Galactic Council realized the threat, the Void Hunters had consumed a dozen systems. The evacuation fleets? Asked General Maya. Moving as fast as possible, Tom answered. But there aren't enough ships. We can maybe save 10% of the population before they arrive. Dr. Lisa's tentacles curled in frustration. In all our databases, across 1,000,000 years of galactic history, we've never faced anything like this. The Void Hunters appear to be from outside our galaxy entirely. Their biology is unlike anything we've cataloged. The enemy ships looked like living nightmares, massive black things that pulsed with dark energy. They moved through space like sharks through water, hunting by instinct, driven by an endless hunger. Their smaller attack craft swarmed like insects, each one capable of destroying a battleship. We need a miracle, Admiral Rex said quietly, as if summoned by his words. A communication alert chimed. The main screen flickered, showing the face of Captain Mike from the Border Patrol. Behind him, stars wheeled as his ship moved at high speed. Admiral, you need to hear this, Mike said, his voice tight with excitement. We've made contact with a previously unknown species. They claim they want to help. Where? Rex demanded. Third arm of the galaxy, sir. A small yellow star with one inhabited world. They call themselves humans. They say they've been watching our war with the Void Hunters. Hope flickered in the council chamber like a small flame. Rex leaned forward. What kind of ships do they have? What weapons? Mike hesitated. That's the strange part, sir. Their technology seems primitive, but their leader wants to speak with you directly. She says they have something that might help. The council members exchanged glances. What could? A single world offer against an enemy that had crushed the combined might of 1,000 species? Patch them through, Rex ordered. The screen changed, showing a human face for the first time in galactic history. The woman looked calm, despite the desperate circumstances, her dark eyes holding secrets. I'm Colonel Emma of the Human Defense Force, she said simply. We're ready to fight. ***, Colonel Emma's image filled the council chamber screen. She looked ordinary compared to the diverse alien species gathered around the table. No scales, no tentacles, no crystalline structure. Just smooth skin, brown hair, and eyes that seemed to see more than they revealed. Humans, Admiral Rex repeated slowly. We have no record of your species in our databases. We prefer it that way, Emma replied. We've been watching you for 50 years, learning your languages, studying your cultures. We knew this day would come. General Maya's scales rippled with skepticism. You knew about the Void Hunters? Why didn't you warn us? Would you have believed us? Emma asked. A primitive species from an unknown world claiming to predict the future? You would have dismissed us as paranoid natives. The truth stung because it was accurate. The Galactic Council had strict protocols about contacting developing species. Humans would have been classified as too primitive for membership. Dr. Lisa's tentacles moved in confusion. Your technology appears to be centuries behind ours. What could you possibly offer? Emma smiled, and something dangerous flickered in her expression. We offer ourselves. One species that's very good at one particular thing. Which is? Rex asked. War. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Captain Tom's feathers ruffled. Every species can fight when threatened. We've been fighting the Void Hunters for 3 years. No, Emma said quietly. You've been defending. You've been reacting. You've been hoping to survive until they lose interest and move on. That's not war. That's just dying slowly. She gestured, and the screen split to show images from Earth. Cities covered the planet's surface, but they looked different from other galactic civilizations. Harder, more fortress-like. The architecture spoke of a species that expected conflict. Humans have been at war with something for our entire history, Emma continued. Sometimes with nature, sometimes with each other, sometimes with both. We've never known true peace. Every generation has faced extinction and found a way to fight back. Commander Jack's gills fluttered nervously. That sounds exhausting. It is, Emma agreed. But it also makes us very good at staying alive when the odds say we should be dead. The screen showed more images, human soldiers moving through. Dangerous terrain. Human ships built for speed and stealth rather than comfort. Human weapons designed for maximum damage rather than elegant engineering. Everything looked functional, brutal, efficient. The Void Hunters have one weakness, Emma said. They've never faced a species that fights back the way we do. Explain, Admiral Rex demanded. They're predators. Perfect predators. They've evolved to hunt prey that runs, hides, or defends in predictable ways. But humans don't just defend. We attack. We adapt. We turn every defeat into a lesson and every lesson into a weapon. General Maya leaned forward. Your ships appear to be inferior to ours. Your weapons look primitive. By your standards, yes. But we built them to fight things that want to kill us. Your ships were built for exploration and trade. Your weapons were designed to disable, not destroy. There's a difference. Emma's image was replaced by technical specifications. Human ships were smaller than galactic standard, but they were fast and carried far more firepower relative to their size. Their weapons were crude, but devastatingly effective. Everything was designed around a simple philosophy: hit first, hit hard, keep hitting until the enemy stops moving. We've analyzed the Void Hunter bioships, Emma continued. They're impressive, but they follow biological patterns. Biology has rules. Rules can be exploited. Dr. Lisa's tentacles curled with interest despite herself. What have you discovered? They regenerate using the energy they absorb. Cut that energy supply, and they become vulnerable. Their hive structure depends on constant communication. Disrupt that communication, and they become confused. Their reproductive cycle requires specific conditions. Change those conditions, and they can't replace their losses. The council chamber buzzed with new hope. These humans had spent years studying an enemy the galaxy had barely understood. You have a plan, Rex realized. We have several plans, Emma corrected. Humans always have backup plans. And backup plans for the backup plans. We've learned that survival requires preparation for every possible disaster. Captain Tom's feathers smoothed with growing excitement. What do you need from us? 3 things, Emma said. First, detailed intelligence about Void Hunter movements and capabilities. Second, access to your industrial capacity to build the weapons we'll need. Third, time to position our forces where they'll do the most damage. And in return? Emma's smile turned predatory. In return, we'll show these Void Hunters why humans have never been successfully conquered by anything. Not nature, not each other, and certainly not some overgrown space locusts who think they can eat our galaxy. The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. Hope was a dangerous thing, but for the first time in years, defeat didn't seem inevitable. 3 weeks after first contact, Admiral Rex stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the most unusual fleet assembly in galactic history. Human ships moved between the massive council vessels like wolves among sheep, smaller, darker, hungrier looking. Colonel Emma's flagship approached through the formation. Rex had expected something impressive, but the human command ship looked like it had been built in a scrapyard. Armor plating covered every surface. Weapon ports bristled from every angle, and the whole thing moved with predatory grace. Docking complete, came the announcement. Minutes later, Emma walked onto the bridge with her command staff. Rex was struck again by how ordinary they looked, until he saw their eyes. Every human had the same look: alert, calculating, ready. FO or violence. Status report, Emma requested without preamble. General Maya gestured to the tactical display. Void Hunter advance fleets are 2 months out from the core systems. Main force will arrive 6 weeks after that. We've completed evacuations of the outer colonies. Emma studied the display with professional interest. You abandoned defensive positions? They were indefensible, Captain Tom explained. Better to fall back to prepared positions than lose our fleets piecemeal. Wrong, Emma said simply. The alien commanders exchanged glances. Rex spoke carefully. Explain your reasoning. You're still thinking like prey, Emma replied. Prey retreats to safe ground and hopes the predator loses interest. Predators don't lose interest. They follow the scent of fear until they corner their target. She moved to the display controls. The Void Hunters expect you to retreat. They're used to hunting species that run, so we give them what they expect, up to a point. The display changed, showing human modifications to the Council's evacuation plan. Instead of straight retreats to core systems, the new routes twisted through asteroid fields, nebulae, and gravitational anomalies. We're not retreating, Emma explained. We're leading them into a maze. Every step deeper takes them further from their supply lines and into terrain we've prepared. Dr. Lisa's tentacles moved excitedly. Guerrilla warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. Exactly. Humans have fought this kind of war for thousands of years. When the enemy is stronger, you don't meet them head-on. You bleed them. You frustrate them. You make every victory cost them more than they gained. Commander. Jack looked puzzled. But the evacuation fleets, they're genuinely fleeing civilians. Emma nodded. The evacuations are real. We're not risking innocent lives for tactical advantage. But we're using the evacuation routes to position combat units where they'll do the most damage. She highlighted several locations on the map. Mining. Stations that look abandoned, but are actually weapons platforms. Cargo ships that are really assault vessels. Refugee camps that are forward bases. The Void Hunters will follow what looks like easy prey straight into prepared kill zones. Over the following days, Rex watched human forces transform the orderly council military into something resembling a pack of predators. Human tactical advisors worked with alien commanders, teaching concepts that had never occurred to peaceful species. Ambush tactics, explained Captain Alex, a human special operations leader, to a group of crystal beings. Your ships can hide inside asteroids because of your mineral composition. When Void Hunter scouts pass by, you emerge behind them. Attack their engines first, then communications. Make it impossible for them to report back. The crystal beings, normally focused on defensive strategies, began to understand the hunter's mindset. In another section, Commander Sarah worked with the aquatic species. Your ships can survive pressure that would crush others. That means you can hide in gas giant atmospheres. The Void Hunters won't expect attacks from inside planetary storms. Meanwhile, human engineers worked alongside galactic scientists to modify existing weapons. The changes were subtle, but significant. Council weapons are designed to disable, explained Chief Engineer Bob to Dr. Lisa. They target engines, weapons, life support, trying to force surrender. Void Hunters don't surrender, so we modify for maximum lethality. Energy weapons were recalibrated to cook biotissue. Missile warheads were replaced with metal fragments that would shred organic hulls. Shield frequencies were adjusted to repel rather than absorb energy, turning the Void Hunter's feeding mechanism against them. "This is barbaric," whispered one of the peaceful delegates during a strategy meeting. "Yes," Emma agreed without shame. "War is barbaric. That's why we're good at it, and you're not. You fight to preserve civilization. We fight to survive. When survival is on the line, barbarism becomes a virtue." Rex found himself changing too. Concepts he'd never considered began making sense. The idea of striking first, of showing no mercy to an enemy that offered none, of using the enemy's strength against them. "Are all human conflicts like this?" he asked Emma during a quiet moment. "The important ones," she replied. "When extinction is the alternative, humans become very creative about staying alive." As the Void Hunter advance scouts entered the outer system, the transformed galactic fleet waited in hidden positions. For the first time in 3 years, they weren't just hoping to survive. They were hunting. Asterisk, the first Void Hunter. Scout ship died without understanding what killed it. Captain. Nina watched from her concealed position inside an asteroid field as the massive bioship drifted through what appeared to be empty space. The Void Hunter vessel pulsed with dark energy, its organic hull shifting and breathing like a living thing. Behind it, more scouts spread out in a search pattern, following the evacuation routes exactly as predicted. "Target locked," her weapons officer reported quietly. "Remember," Nina said to her mixed crew of humans and aliens, "we hit fast, we hit hard, and we disappear before they know we're here. No heroics, no prolonged engagements." The first salvo of modified plasma torpedoes struck the bioship's rear. Section. Instead of the usual energy discharge that Void Hunters could absorb, the weapons delivered concentrated metal fragments that shredded organic tissue like a blender. The scout ship convulsed, its bioluminescent patches flickering wildly. Before it could send a distress signal, the second wave hit. Energy weapons recalibrated to cook, rather than stun, turned the creature's own nervous system against it. The massive ship went dark and began drifting. "Jump out now," Nina ordered. Her ship vanished into hyperspace, just as more Void Hunter scouts arrived to investigate. They found wreckage and confusion, but no attackers. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Council forces that had spent 3 years retreating suddenly became ghosts in the darkness. They struck without warning, vanished before retaliation, and left behind only dead bioships and frustrated Void Hunter swarms. Admiral Rex monitored the reports from his mobile command center, hidden deep within a nebula. The tactical display showed dozens of successful ambushes scattered across 7 star systems. "Void Hunter response?" he asked. General Maya's scales had regained their natural color as hope returned. "They're adapting faster than we expected. The main swarms are changing formation, sending out more scouts, trying to flush us from hiding." "Good," said Colonel Emma, who had just arrived from another successful raid. "Adaptation means they're learning to fear us. Fear makes predators cautious. Caution makes them slow." Emma moved to the tactical display and began highlighting enemy formations. "See how they're clustering now? Before, they spread out to cover more territory. Now they're staying together for protection. That's prey behavior." Captain Tom's feathers ruffled with excitement. "They're becoming defensive." "Exactly. For the first time in their existence, Void Hunters are worried about being hunted. It goes against every instinct they have." The next phase began 2 days later. Void Hunter forces, now moving in tighter formations, encountered what appeared to be massive refugee convoy fleeing toward the core systems. Thousands of ships stretched across space, loaded with civilians from evacuated worlds. The bioships descended on the convoy, like sharks sensing blood in the water. Their energy weapons began charging, prepared to feast on the life energy of millions. Then the refugee ships opened fire. The vessels weren't cargo haulers filled with families. They were warships disguised as transports, loaded with every weapon the combined galactic species could build. The civilians were actually the most experienced combat crews in the galaxy, hidden under sensor-dampening fields. "All units, weapons. Free." Emma broadcast from her command ship, which had been disguised as a simple colony transport. The space around the Void Hunter swarm became a storm of destructive energy. Modified Council weapons tore through biohulls, while human-designed missiles delivered payloads specifically engineered to disrupt organic systems. The Void Hunters, expecting to feed on helpless prey, instead found themselves caught in a carefully planned crossfire. But the humans had learned from studying the enemy. A Void Hunter's greatest strength was their ability to absorb energy and use it to regenerate. So the new weapons didn't just deliver energy, they delivered poison. "Metal fragment warheads are performing as expected," reported Dr. Lisa from her position aboard a disguised science vessel. "The bioships can't process inorganic materials. They're trying to regenerate around metal fragments that are shredding them from inside." Commander Jack's aquatic species had contributed their own innovation, bioweapons designed to disrupt the Void Hunter's cellular structure. Their healing systems are going into overdrive, trying to repair damage faster than we can inflict it. It's burning through their energy reserves. What followed wasn't a battle in the traditional sense. It was an execution. The Void Hunter swarm, caught completely off guard, tried to retreat. But human ships had positioned themselves on all escape routes. Every direction led to another ambush, another prepared kill zone. "This is impossible," Admiral Rex muttered, watching the display. We're destroying them. Not destroying, Emma corrected. Teaching. We're teaching the Void Hunters what it feels like to be hunted. By the end of the engagement, the Void Hunter advance force had been completely eliminated. Not a single bioship escaped to report what had happened. But Emma knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the main Void Hunter fleet arrived and found their scouts missing. Signal all units, she ordered. Fall back to secondary positions. We've got their attention now. For the first time in galactic history, the Void Hunters would enter a system afraid. The main Void Hunter fleet arrived to find silence. Their advance scouts were gone. The expected refugee streams had vanished. Even the background chatter of galactic communications had disappeared, leaving only empty space where billions of lives should have been broadcasting their fear dot in the depths of a gas giant's storm-tossed atmosphere. Admiral Rex watched the enemy formation through sensors that barely penetrated the chaotic winds. The Void Hunter bioships moved carefully now, their usual predatory confidence replaced by wary caution. Count? He asked quietly. Over 3,000 ships, reported General Maya, her voice tight with controlled fear despite their recent victories. The largest single fleet we've ever encountered. The massive bioships dwarfed anything the Galactic Council had built. Each one pulsed with enough dark energy to power a star system, their organic hulls constantly shifting and adapting. Behind them came waves of smaller attack craft, numbered in the tens of thousands. They're scared, observed Colonel Emma, studying the enemy formation from her own concealed position. Look at their movement pattern, tight formation, overlapping fields of fire, scouts staying close to the main force. They've never moved like this before. Captain Tom's voice crackled over the comm from another hidden position. What's the plan? We can't fight that many ships directly. Emma's response carried across all Council frequencies, reaching every ship, every crew, every species that had spent 3 years running from these monsters. We don't fight them, she said. We break them. The trap had taken weeks to prepare. Every piece of debris, every asteroid, every abandoned station in the system had been quietly weaponized. Council engineers working alongside human demolitions experts had turned the entire star system into one massive ambush. Phase 1, execute. Emma ordered. The first explosions came from where the Void Hunters least expected behind them. Mining charges hidden in asteroids detonated simultaneously, filling space with high-velocity fragments aimed at the bioship's vulnerable rear sections. The organic hulls, designed to absorb energy, had no defense against simple kinetic impacts. Dozens of bioships reeled under the assault, their regeneration systems struggling to seal hull breaches while maintaining formation. The Void Hunter fleet began to spread out, trying to avoid the debris fields. Phase 2. Hidden weapons platforms scattered throughout the system opened fire simultaneously. These weren't the elegant energy weapons the Council preferred. They were human-designed mass drivers, railguns, and chemical explosive launchers. Crude, brutal, effective. But the real genius of the human strategy became clear as the Void Hunters tried to respond. Every time they focused on one threat, another emerged from a different direction. The attacks weren't random. They were orchestrated to drive the bioships toward specific areas. They're hurting us, realized one Void Hunter swarm commander. Its thoughts broadcast through their collective consciousness. The prey has become predator. Dr. Lisa monitored the enemy communications from her science vessel. They're adapting again, but slowly. Their entire species mindset is built around being apex predators. They don't know how to think defensively. The Void Hunters' attempts to break out of the trap only drove them deeper. Each escape route led to another prepared ambush. Human psychological warfare techniques, refined through millennia of interspecies conflict, played on the bioship's instincts. Phase 3. Emma announced that this was the moment everything depended on. Captain Alex's special forces had spent days positioning themselves throughout the system, using ships small enough to avoid detection. Now they struck at the Void Hunters' greatest weakness, their hive communication network. Specialized jamming devices, built from human military technology and powered by Council energy systems, created dead zones in the bioship's collective consciousness. Suddenly, a massive fleet found itself divided into confused, isolated groups. "They're panicking," Commander Jack reported with amazement. "The bioships don't know how to function without constant communication." What followed was the systematic destruction of an enemy that had seemed invincible just hours before. Cut off from their hive mind, the Void Hunter ships made tactical errors they would never have committed as a unified force. They fired on each other in confusion, rammed into asteroids while trying to escape, and exposed vulnerable sections to concentrated fire. But the most important change wasn't in the Void Hunters. It was in the Council forces. All ships, advance. "To contact," Admiral Rex ordered, his voice carrying new confidence. "Time to finish this." The galactic fleet emerged from hiding, with weapons charged and formation tight. 3 years of defeats had been replaced by weeks of victories. Species that had spent millennia in peaceful cooperation now moved with predatory coordination. The battle that followed wasn't the desperate last stand everyone had expected. It was a methodical extermination of an enemy that had forgotten how to lose. As the last Void Hunter bioship died in silent vacuum, Rex looked around his bridge at the mixed crew of humans and aliens who had learned to fight like humans. "Status report," he requested. "Enemy fleet destroyed," Maya reported, her scales bright with victory colors. "No survivors detected." Emma's voice came over the calm as always. "Threat eliminated. The galaxy is safe." But Rex knew the real victory wasn't the destruction of the Void Hunters. It was that the galaxy had learned something new about itself. When extinction threatened, even the most peaceful species could become predators. The age of easy prey was over.